Welcome. It is Verdict with Senator Ted Cruz. Ben Ferguson with you. Senator, we have got so much to talk about on the show, including a lot that deals with the Epstein, quote, files, and people are demanding transparency.
Well, there's an absolute battle playing out in Washington, D.C., and you've got a battle about the Epstein files, President Trump, the Wall Street Journal, Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, Dan Bongino. It is chaos. We're going to do our very best to break down what's going on, what to expect, what's going to happen next. We're also going to talk about really important legislation that just passed Congress, passed the Senate, defunding PBS, defunding NPR. This is a major conservative victory. We've been trying to do this for decades, and we finally got it done. And finally, we're going to talk about something that I'm going to confess is just beautiful. Stephen Colbert has been fired. He's been canceled. We're going to break that down, talk about what's going on. A lot is happening right now.
Yeah, before we get all that, I just want to talk to you real quick about an incredible company that I want you to know about. And if you have a cell phone, and look, almost 100% of us do, then why give your money to companies that actually fight against your values? For more than 12 years, there's been a company called Patriot Mobile. And they've been on the front lines fighting for God-given rights and freedoms by taking part of your cell phone bill at no extra cost to any of their clients and giving it back to incredible causes that support our First and our Second Amendment rights, the rights of unborn children. And they stand with our veterans, our wounded warriors, and so many families that are in need with loved ones that served in our military. Now, they do that while you also get exceptional nationwide cell phone service. And you get access with Patriot Mobile to all three of the main networks that are running all over the country. Now, you don't have to take my word for it. You can literally ask the hundreds of thousands of American patriots who have made the switch and are now supporting causes they believe in simply by joining Patriot Mobile. Now, a lot of people think that switching cell phone providers is so hard it's not worth the time. That is true in the past, but not in 2025. Switching is easier now than ever. You can activate in minutes from the comfort of your home or your office. And you keep your same number. You keep your same phone, or you can upgrade to a new one. Now, I want to give you a free month of service. All you have to do is go to patriotmobile.com/verdict. That's patriotmobile.com/verdict. You're going to get a free month of service if you use the promo code VERDICT. You can also call them and make the switch. 972-PATRIOT. That's 972-PATRIOT. And make the switch today and make a difference literally with every phone call and text you make. All right, so Senator, let's break down some of the just frustrations with the Epstein hoopla. The media is just going after Donald Trump. The left is now caring about Epstein. They never did before. They're trying to attack Trump, saying he's trying to hide something. And I think it's pretty clear. You've been an advocate for this. I have since the beginning. I want transparency. I want to make sure that the people that were involved are held accountable. There seems like there's been no accountability except for one person going to jail. And I want to make sure that our government wasn't covering something up, because a lot of people have lost confidence in our institutions. And we know they've lied to us a lot. I don't think there's anything wrong with hardcore conservatives wanting that level of transparency.
Well, I think millions of conservatives, millions of Americans have been frustrated in the last week because the media has been just beside themselves trying to flame a civil war. They wanted a civil war between MAGA and Trump, and they're hoping that all of the elements of the conservative movement, all of the elements of President Trump and his supporters will consume each other. I don't think that's going to happen. So part of my advice to everyone is just breathe, count to 10. We're going to make it through this. Now, let me give you some ways to think through this. I'm going to give you 4 principles. Number 1, transparency is good. We should support transparency. We should demand transparency. We should fight for transparency. That's important. Number 2, protect the victims. A couple of months ago, I had dinner with Pam Bondi. Pam is a good friend. We were talking about the Epstein files and what had been released. What she told me then is she said that there were hundreds, even thousands of hours of tapes. The tapes were explicit, she said. They were explicit of children being abused. And she said it was taking time to edit those videos to make sure you protect the victims. Look, nobody wants to see children being sexually assaulted, having their privacy violated. So I think it's important to protect the victims. It's not their fault. Number 3, and this is a principle I have said for years on this issue, release it all. That should be the basic standard. Put it out there. Release it all. Make it public. That's what I've encouraged the president to do, the White House to do, the Department of Justice to do, the FBI to do. I think that is a simple and straightforward standard. And then number 4, predators should be prosecuted. Anyone who sexually assaulted a child should be prosecuted, and they should go to jail. This is a simple and straightforward standard. This is what we should be demanding. Now, we're going to break this down in this show. We're going to talk about what's going on, but understand, the media, you were on CNN earlier tonight. CNN is so excited. They're so excited because they're seeing strong supporters of the president who are criticizing the president. CNN doesn't care about the truth. If they cared about the truth, by the way, Joe Biden had these files. He had these files for years. Did CNN ever mention the words Jeffrey Epstein? They didn't want Joe Biden to release the files. They didn't want Merrick Garland to release the files. They're not concerned about the substance. They're just excited about the civil war among President Trump and his supporters. That should tell you something. We're going to break that down even further, but understand at the end of the day, the people cheering on for this to get ugly, many of them, the Democrats and the corporate media, have been proven to be utter and complete hypocrites, because if they didn't say a word when Joe Biden was president, then they need to be quiet right now and stop pretending they care about this.
Well, let's talk about what transparency looks like. And this was one of the big debates, and as you mentioned, CNN obsessed over this. And I said, look, this has to be done in a responsible way. I also think the American people need to understand Donald Trump cannot just sign and everything go out to the public. There are judges that will have to decide what is made public in a lot of the information we have on Jeffrey Epstein. And they're trying to act like Donald Trump's the one that's not allowing anything to happen. That's not the case.
Well, that's right. And listen, the media and the Democrats have been eager to fan a dispute between Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, and Dan Bongino. Now, I want to caution everyone. Do not take as true everything reported in the media. I've read the same things you are, that Dan Bongino's screaming at Pam Bondi that there's a civil war, that he's threatening to resign, that Kash Patel's threatening to resign. I don't know. I have not been in these meetings. I'll tell you, all 3 of them are friends of mine. I like Pam Bondi. I like Kash Patel. I like Dan Bongino. I've known all of them for a decade. I believe they're good people. I believe they're principled people. I believe they're trying to do the right thing. And my hope is the Trump administration will follow the 4 principles I laid out and handle this the right way. But do not get carried away with the media excitement of the people who hate President Trump, hate his administration, and want his administration to be in a civil war. I very much hope, I do not know, but I hope that Bondi, Patel, and Bongino come together and they do the right thing together and do not believe the exaggerations of a civil war right now.
Senator, I want to get in also to another big story that came out. It dealt with Epstein and the Wall Street Journal report, the president punching back extremely hard on this reporting.
Well, the Wall Street Journal reported this week that there was a book prepared for Jeffrey Epstein's 50th birthday, and it had letters from a number of prominent people, and that one of the letters was from Donald Trump. And this was a breathless article. And you're right, President Trump is punching back hard. He says it is fake. He says it is false. He says he's going to sue the Wall Street Journal. Now, Ben, you don't know the truth on this. I don't know the truth on this. I'll tell you what the Wall Street Journal reported. Just on the text of it, I got to admit, this thing sounds weird. And if any of us have a BS meter, it ought to be flashing. So here's what the Wall Street Journal reported. It reported that the letter said, quote, voiceover, there must be more to life than having everything. And then it's this weird dialogue. Donald, yes, there is, but I won't tell you what it is. Jeffrey, nor will I. since I also know what it is. Donald, we have certain things in common, Jeffrey. Jeffrey, yes, we do, come to think of it. Donald, enigmas never age. Have you noticed that? Jeffrey, as a matter of fact, it was clear to me the last time I saw you. Donald, a pal is a wonderful thing. Happy birthday, and may every day be another wonderful secret. And then underneath that is a hand-drawn, pretty shoddy drawing of a naked woman and the now very famous signature of Donald Trump drawn on top of the hand-drawn naked woman. Now, look, I don't know if this is real or not, but I got to say, that doesn't sound like Donald Trump to me. I've known President Trump a long time. That exchange just sounds strange. I've seen online, I've never heard President Trump use the word enigma, as in enigmas never age. That's not the language President Trump speaks in. This sort of weird, existential, self-reflective dialogue out of Camus, that ain't the Donald J. Trump I know. And I got to say, President Trump's response on this, it was not ambiguous. It was not slight. It was not conflicted. Here's what President Trump said in response to this. He said on Truth, quote, "The Wall Street Journal and Rupert Murdoch personally were warned directly by President Donald J. Trump that the supposed letter they were printed by President Trump to Epstein was a fake, all caps. And if they print it, they will be sued. Mr. Murdoch stated that he would take care of it, but obviously did not have the power to do so. The editor of the Wall Street Journal, Emma Tucker, was told directly by Caroline Leavitt and by President Trump that the letter was a fake, all caps. But Emma Tucker didn't want to hear that. Instead, they're going with a false, malicious, and defamatory story anyway. President Trump will be suing the Wall Street Journal, News Corp, and Mr. Murdoch shortly. The press has to learn to be truthful and not to rely on sources that probably don't even exist. President Trump has already beaten George Stephanopoulos/ABC, 60 Minutes/CBS, and others, and looks forward to suing and holding accountable the once great Wall Street Journal. It has truly turned out to be a, quote, disgusting and filthy rag, and writing defamatory lies like this shows their desperation to remain relevant. If there were any truth at all on the Epstein hoax as it pertains to President Trump, the information would have been revealed by Comey, Brennan, Crooked Hillary, and the other radical left lunatics years ago. It certainly would not have sat in a file waiting for Trump to have won 3 elections. This is yet another example of fake news. Now, I got to say, President Trump is not being shy or subtle or restrained on that. He's saying it's an absolute lie. And look, I think we'll see this play out in the days ahead. But on the face of it, like the strange drawing of a naked woman that seems like it's drawn by about a 12-year-old, that doesn't seem like anything I've ever seen President Trump do. And so it's kind of very conveniently signed with the same signature we've seen on pictures, on laws, on executive orders, on pardons. It has a lot of appearances of being fake. We'll see what happens.
Well, and the clear point the president was making was he's saying it's not real and I'm going to sue. Suing, by the way, the company that owns Fox News, that's a pretty bold statement. I also think that, goes to the heart here where he's saying this is not a real story. This is, and let's also be clear. When the president digs in, traditionally, we have seen when he says this is not a real story, Russia collusion is a great example of that. He's been right, and when he's sued, he's been right.
Well, and let me make 3 points that are critical in analyzing this battle between Trump and the Wall Street Journal. Number one, the most compelling argument, he made this in his Truth, is if there were evidence of Donald Trump in the Epstein files, Biden would have released it. Biden had this. Merrick Garland had this. They were in the middle of a nasty fight. If they had anything to implicate Donald Trump, we would have seen this on the front pages of the paper in October of 2024, right before the election. The fact that they didn't, I think is the single most compelling piece of evidence to suggest that this is not real. Number two, and I want to underscore this, don't forget Bill Clinton. Jeffrey Epstein was a Democrat. He was a friend of Bill. You know what was hanging in Jeffrey Epstein's living room in his Manhattan brownstone?
The famous Bill Clinton blue dress painting.
No, that's exactly right. It was a painting of Bill Clinton in a blue dress wearing red pumps. It was weird. And that's what Jeffrey Epstein had hanging on his wall. He was a huge Democrat donor. He supported Chuck Schumer and Democrats. And so don't forget Bill Clinton. And there's a lot of effort to paint this Democrat scumbag as a Trump guy. And a final point. Here's what President Trump truthed this week. Quote, based on the ridiculous amount of publicity given to Jeffrey Epstein, I have asked Attorney General Pam Bondi to produce any and all pertinent grand jury testimony, subject to court approval. This scam perpetuated by the Democrats should end right now. Bravo, release it all. That was right in the principles we said right up front.
Amen to that. And let's talk about some winning that's been taking place, Senator. It's been amazing what the president has been able to do with
Benjamin,
you guys
are you tired of winning?
I'm not tired. I'm not tired of winning, that's for sure.
I'm not tired at all.
Yeah, you look at just the last 6 months. The Trump administration, we've secured the border. They've launched ICE raids. They've ended child gender surgeries. They designated the cartels as terrorist organizations. They've kicked out DEI out of government. And then the big one, which should make so many taxpayers happy, they have defunded NPR with your help and leadership. That is amazing.
Well, I got to say this week was a very important week. So at 2:20 in the morning, late Wednesday night, early Thursday morning, the Senate voted, and we voted to defund NPR and to defund PBS. Now, as a conservative, I have been fighting to defund NPR and PBS as long as I can remember. NPR, PBS have been left-wing propaganda outlets forever. And as bad as they were, look, when we were kids, when it was Sesame Street and Big Bird and Oscar the Grouch, okay, that was fine. But in recent years, they have been radicalized. They always lean left, but in recent years, they've been open outlets for left-wing propaganda. And I got to say, the left was certain we could never defund them. And I will tell you, on the Senate floor, as we were taking up the rescissions package, so President Trump sent a package of some $9 billion of rescissions, federal spendings, to call back. We were battling on the floor, and it was beyond 2 in the morning. It was very unclear if we were going to prevail, because I got to say, there were several Republicans who were wobbly. There were several Republicans who were threatening to vote with the Democrats. And as late as about 2 in the morning, I didn't know if we were going to win. We did prevail. And I got to say, what a testament to the president, and what a testament. Let me give just a shout out to Senate Republicans and House Republicans for coming together, for pushing past their differences. Defunding NPR and PBS is the right thing to do. And the Senate finally voted to do that this week.
Yeah, this is such a big message, I think, to taxpayers, that we're no longer in the business of just completely abusing your tax dollars and actually using your tax dollars to go for political purposes, which is the scariest part of all of this, is how political these dollars had become, advocating for radical extreme things against family values. And by the way, I don't want our tax dollars going for conservative things in broadcasting either. That's I want to make that very clear. Like, that's not what we're advocating for at all.
The government should not be in the propaganda business. This is the argument I made on the Senate floor. So listen to what I stood up and urged my colleagues late Wednesday night, early Thursday morning. Give a listen.
Public broadcasting has long been overtaken by partisan activists, plain and simple. This isn't just an abstract critique. NPR and PBS have revealed their left-wing bias time and time again. When blowing the whistle on NPR, Yuri Berliner, a former senior editor, himself a left-wing Democrat, wrote that, quote, NPR has always had a liberal bent. An open-minded spirit no longer exists within NPR. We don't have an audience that reflects America. Exhibit A, after the New York Post broke the Hunter Biden laptop story, NPR ran political cover for the Democrats, refusing to cover the story. Quote, "We don't want to waste listeners' and readers' time on stories that are just pure distractions." Mind you, the story was true. That's why they didn't want to cover it. As for PBS, its coverage of last year's DNC was only 12% negative. The RNC, a staggering 72% negative. If you want to watch left-wing propaganda, turn on MSNBC. But the taxpayers should not be forced to subsidize it. I urge a no vote on this amendment.
That obviously was very powerful, and the facts that you laid out there are also incredibly accurate.
Look, the principle is simple, and I'll say it again. If you want to watch left-wing propaganda, turn on MSNBC, or for that matter, CNN, or for that matter, read the New York Times or any of a host of corporate media outlets. But you know what we shouldn't be doing is using your taxpayer money to subsidize it. And I got to say, I'm going to give a shout out to my colleague, John Kennedy. John is a good friend, but he also has a fabulous sense of humor. I want you to listen to John Kennedy talking about NPR, some of the most radical stories they've run.
I want to give you a few examples of stories that NPR has published using taxpayer money. I'll just read the headlines. First headline, NPR News Service. Michael Avenatti, quote, "a profile of the media-savvy attorney." They love Michael Avenatti. You know where Michael Avenatti is today? He's in jail. You know why? He's a crook. But for a while, he was a media darling on NPR. Here's another headline from NPR. How racism became a marketing tool for country music. I kid you not. The American taxpayers are spending $500 million a year to pay a local station to buy content that says country music is racist. Here's another headline from NPR. Donald Trump's long embrace of Vladimir Putin. Remember the Russiagate? The Steele dossier? NPR was right in there promoting it. A couple more headlines that NPR is putting out there using your tax dollars. This headline, monuments and teams have changed names. Let me say it again. Monuments and teams, presumably sports teams, have changed names as America reckons with racism. Birds are next. I don't know any birds that are racist. Here's another headline. Eating less beef is a climate solution. Eating less beef is a climate solution. I don't have anything against vegetarians. I'm a semi-vegetarian myself. I eat beef and cows eat grass. So that makes me a semi-vegetarian. But that's my choice. Not on NPR. Eating less beef is a climate solution. Here's why that's hard for some American men. Here's a final headline. I could go on the rest of the evening. How the Taliban adds to Afghanistan's woes when it comes to climate-fueled disasters. Boy, I can tell you that's on the mind of every person in Afghanistan today, is climate change. And the Taliban, I can guarantee you. I don't have a problem with these headlines. This is America. If you want to publish articles like this, which no person with a brain above a single-cell organism would call fair and balanced, if you're a news outlet and you want to publish this kind of stuff, that is your right as an American. We have freedom of the press. We have the First Amendment. You're not free in our country if you can't say what you think. You're not free in our country if you can't express yourself. I'm all for this, if that's what these outlets want to do. But I'm not for taking $500 million every single year and giving it to these stations to the exclusion of everybody else so they can do it.
Amen to that, Senator. I couldn't agree with your colleague and good friend, Senator Kennedy, more.
I love John Kennedy. I will say he said something in that. As you know, I'm married to a California vegetarian. Her entire family are all vegetarians. And an argument I make with my in-laws often is I say, listen, all the animals I eat, they're all vegetarian. And I will say, you've owned a barbecue restaurant. I am a proud carnivore. John Kennedy is fantastic, but NPR and PBS are a joke. And we have reason to celebrate because despite a massive battle, we won. The Senate voted to cut off, to zero out taxpayer funding. We're no longer paying for left-wing propaganda.
Senator, there is just some news that shocked the left. I don't know how this could be true, but The Late Show has been destroyed by Stephen Colbert to the point where they're like, we're not even just firing you, we're just canceling the entire brand that has been a staple in American culture, an iconic show for decades. And now they're just like, yeah, we're done. I mean, it's amazing, right? You alienate half the country, you hate half the country, you mock half the country. No one could have seen this coming.
Well, look, I got to say, what you and I talked about just a few minutes ago, I'm not tired of winning yet. Stephen Colbert is a vicious, dishonest, partisan leftist. He is utterly consumed with Trump derangement syndrome. And he despises more than half of America. He thinks we're idiots. He thinks we're racist. He thinks we're morons. He is a condescending, arrogant jackass. Now, look, I say this with direct experience. I've been on Colbert's show. There used to be a time, listen, I love comedy. I love late night comedy. I grew up watching SNL. I grew up watching Johnny Carson and Jay Leno and like really fun late night comedy. And by the way, if you got a sense of humor, you can laugh at both sides. I'm okay with late night comics making fun of Republicans, making fun of Democrats. Look, both sides are funny. There's lots of jokes to tell. There used to be a time, I've been in the Senate 13 years. When I got there, it was part of the job. I've done just about every late night show. I've done Jay Leno, I've done Colbert, I've done Jimmy Kimmel, I've done Jimmy Fallon. It was a fun part of the job. It's disappeared. None of the late night shows have Republicans on anymore. They don't invite anyone. In fact, it was really fitting. Stephen Colbert's show where he announced, I've been canceled, I'm pulled off the air. You know who his guest was? Adam Schiff. Because of course it was Adam Schiff. Because, and Colbert's the worst of them. He's a vicious, nasty. So I remember when I first did his show, you know, the hosts come by and they talk to you in the green room and they chat with you. And you know, I said, look, like all of these late night comics, they think they're going to be, you know, that they're going to be this like meet the press, like we're going to ask you really tough questions. By the way, Democrats, they have love fests, they laugh, they joke, they kid around, but with the Republicans, they're going to nail you to the ground. And I'm like, look, you want to ask tough questions, that's fine, but you go on a late night comedy show to humanize, to say a little bit of who you are, to laugh. And Colbert just got angry. He's just like, I want to prove you are evil, you are the devil. And by the way, they don't even do that anymore. They just don't have Republicans on. And Colbert, of all of them, was the worst. By the way, Jimmy Fallon of the late night guys is the best.
Yeah.
Fallon, you know, it's interesting. Fallon inherited Jay Leno's audience. Jay Leno inherited Johnny Carson's audience. Their audience is a lot of Midwestern conservatives. And so Jimmy Fallon, like I had a great time. I did Jimmy Fallon back when I was running for president. He had a very funny skit where he dressed up as Donald Trump and called me and went back and forth. But he was the one late night host who was not a jerk. Actually, Leno wasn't either, but that was early on. Colbert is directly responsible, along with his compatriots, with destroying late night comedy. And I want to play.
By the way, it's because it wasn't humor.
It's not funny. It's just, I hate you, I hate you, I hate you is not funny.
Yeah, it's also, by the way, the reason why I think Shane Gillis was at the ESPYs, because they're just like humor is actually back. And Colbert turned his show into this like sanctimonious woke lecture every night attacking half of America.
Well, and let me prove it. I want to play just a selection of, he became this like scold for you must get the COVID vaccine. And here are a couple of examples of this bizarre song he did. You're going to listen to it. I wish you could see the videos, because the videos have him dancing like a fruitcake nut, dressed as a human syringe. But just listen to it because you can get a sense of just how sanctimonious he was. Give a listen.
Find out the way the vaccine is changing the scene in our new recurring segment, The Vaccine. Longer. Stall. Why the can, you ask? I asked that myself. The answer, public domain. It's the answer to most things, really. The vaccine. I'm a Yankee Doodle vaccine. Shot, 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 shot. The vaccine.
We are the vaccine. Get your shot right now. In your arm, it won't hurt. Then go hug your mom. Get your shot. Hug your mom. Get your shot. Hug your mom.
By the way, I just wonder like how many of those segments had vaccine commercials from pharmaceutical companies in there, and it's like, hey, I got you. I'll do a big thing. They put
I am
this
Stephen
out.
Colbert, sponsored by Pfizer.
Right, exactly. They put this thing out. It's 10 minutes and 49 seconds long. By the way, I say they. Literally, the video we just played from you was the, quote, vaccine, the box set, The Late Show with Stephen Colbert. They put this out themselves and were that proud of it.
No, they were proud of it, and it's vicious, it's nasty, and it's not funny. Like I'm fine with a comedy host that makes fun of everyone. That's one of my favorite movies, and we didn't include this when we did on July 4th our movie section. But one of my favorite movies was Team America: World Police. Did you ever see that, Ben?
Oh yeah, great movie,
hysterical movie, and it's done. It's puppets, and it makes fun of both sides. It makes fun of Republicans, but it makes fun of Democrats. And now I will warn you, it is profane. I had the incredibly poor judgment to play this video for my in-laws on a family vacation. And I will tell you, about 9 minutes into it, when they had dropped the 30-second F-bomb, I was like, okay, wow, this was a really bad idea. And my mother-in-law is frowning at me, and I'm like, wow, okay, never mind. But unbelievably funny, because it's actually comedy. It's making fun. Just watching Stephen Colbert saying, I hate Donald Trump. Yes, Stephen, we got you, but you know what? Stephen Colbert is now unemployed. He's been canceled, and he's been canceled because, oddly enough, Americans don't like to listen to someone screaming at them, I hate you, I hate you, I hate you, I'm smarter than you, I'm a left-wing elitist, I make millions of dollars, and I despise you. And so I got to say, in response to his musical medley, urging everyone you must get the vaccine, I have a different musical medley that I want to say, not just to Stephen Colbert, but also to NPR and to PBS. Here's my musical response.
Truly amazing. You got to love that song right there. Don't forget, we do this podcast, this show, I should say, as a podcast 3 days a week. So make sure you subscribe to Verdict with Ted Cruz wherever you get your podcasts. Have a fabulous week. The Senator and I will see you back here on this radio station, wherever you are, next weekend. And hopefully you'll hear us 3 days a week on the podcast. Have a great one.